Day 6 of the Diddy trial kicked off with the usual scene reporters flooding in, whispers circulating about what jaw-dropping moment might unfold. But nobody was ready for the shock that followed when Monique stepped onto the witness stand. A feud long believed to be just another Hollywood squabble transformed into a pivotal piece of federal testimony. And as she began connecting the dots between Diddy, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, and Bishop T.D. Jakes, the room froze. She came armed not just with allegations, but with receipts, timelines, audio recordings, hard proof. For the first time ever, Monique was legally empowered to speak the truth she's been hinting at for years. And what she revealed redefined the entire trajectory of the trial. Even before the doors opened, the gallery was overflowing. Journalists packed the hallway, anticipating another dramatic twist, but no one expected the Oscar-winning actress and Hollywood whistleblower to walk in, poised and composed, through a side entrance. Diddy's lawyers looked at each other nervously. Prosecutors fumbled through notes with renewed urgency. No one had her name on any official witness list. But the minute she sat down, the air shifted. Diddy, dressed in a dark charcoal suit, visibly stiffened. He leaned toward his attorney, whispering something with a frown. Though cameras weren't permitted, sketch artists caught the moment his calm demeanor cracked. His eye twitched, his jaw tightened. Monique, sitting tall, began firmly, "I was called here to tell the truth. And that's exactly what I'm going to do." For years, she'd spoken out about the darker corners of Hollywood, the blackballing by Perry, Oprah, and Lee Daniels. Many dismissed her, called her angry or irrelevant. But now, in a federal courtroom, under oath, her words hit differently. The judge allowed her to present a detailed timeline outlining her interactions with the same power players now entangled. In this case, she cited dates, conversations, secret deals, and backroom negotiations disguised as golden opportunities. Prosecutors nodded, flipping back to notes from Cassie Ventura's earlier testimony. And just like that, the trial expanded beyond Diddy. Monique's next statement wasn't even about Diddy, it was about Tyler Perry. And it landed like a bomb. She described a private 2018 phone call where Perry confessed that the campaign to blacklist her had been wrong. "He told me he was sorry," she testified. "He said he'd make it right in public. He never did." Instead, she claimed, Perry warned her that a public apology would implicate people who weren't yet ready to face exposure. When asked who he meant, Monique turned to the jury and said plainly, "Puff. That's who he was talking about. Puff Daddy, Diddy. Whatever name you want to use." The gallery erupted audible gasps and a flurry of exchanged glances between members of the prosecution. It quickly became clear this wasn't just celebrity drama. It might be proof of a coordinated cover-up across the entertainment industry. Monique took things a step further, testifying that Tyler Perry had told her he couldn't afford to speak out because too many people were locked into too many NDA letters. She then submitted a printed transcript of a recorded call where Perry allegedly admitted, "There are situations I can't be linked to in public. We've all witnessed things at Puff's parties that no one's supposed to mention." The judge allowed the transcript to be added to evidence but withheld the audio until it could be authenticated. What made this moment so gripping wasn't just the content, it was the dark implication that a network of A-list celebrities may have knowingly turned a blind eye to protect their brands. Diddy's legal team jumped up to challenge the statement, calling it hearsay. But prosecutors pushed back, saying it revealed how silence and image maintenance might have shielded Diddy and enabled misconduct for years. Then came the line that stopped the courtroom cold. Monique leaned forward, adjusted the mic, and delivered a statement that would dominate the news cycle for the rest of the day. "I went to one of Diddy's parties and I left because I saw something I wasn't meant to see." She testified that in 2006, she was invited to a secretive gathering in LA. The invite came from another actor who pitched it as an elite networking event. Upon arriving at a sprawling mansion in the Hollywood Hills, her phone was taken by valet, and she was led inside. Soft R&B played, candles flickered, and guests, both men and women, were led one by one into private rooms. "I remember seeing a woman in stilettos and a man wearing only a robe," she said. "One of Diddy's aides told me, 'It's all about the experience here, you're good if you sign the NDA.' That was her cue to leave. She never signed. She never came back. But everything changed after that night." According to Monique, her career took a sharp downturn. Calls for roles stopped. Invites to premieres dried up. A producer told her she was gaining a reputation for being difficult. She always wondered if her abrupt exit from that party had branded her a threat. When asked if she believed this was standard operating procedure at Diddy's gatherings, she replied with certainty, "Yes, it was structured. And when I wouldn't play along, I was pushed out." Her words echoed testimony from Cassie Ventura and others. Dark rooms, cameras, escort services, and five-star hotels passed off as networking opportunities. But what made Monique's account unique was her position. She wasn't an employee. She was an insider. She walked in with status and walked out watching her career slowly unravel. When the prosecution asked if she thought Tyler Perry had helped protect Diddy's reputation, her answer was immediate. Yes, she said, and I believe it was deliberate, calculated, and part of a wider plan to keep things hidden. She then referenced a viral clip one that made rounds online of Tyler Perry entering Bishop T.D. Jakes' MAGA church, and he wrote $1 million check right there in the middle of the sanctuary. People clapped, called it a blessing. But Monique saw something else. They thought it was generosity, she said. I saw it as a transaction. That money, she continued, wasn't just about tithing, it was strategic. The church isn't just a place of worship for people like Diddy. It's a shield, a way to build alliances that make you bulletproof. The courtroom murmured as her words sank in. Even the judge looked up briefly, watching jurors take rapid notes. Monique testified that not long after Tyler Perry's high-profile donation to Bishop Jakes' MAGA church, chatter online about Diddy's private parties started vanishing. That's when I realized people were being paid off, manipulated, silenced, she said. That check wasn't just for Jakes, it was for calm. It was for quiet. To bolster her point, the prosecution displayed photos taken shortly after the donation. Perry and Diddy side by side at a bedevet, grinning with arms around each other, as if nothing was happening behind the scenes. The imagery reinforced Monique's claim. Hollywood wasn't just shielding Diddy, it was propping him up. Then, Monique turned toward the bench. You see, I don't fear being blackballed anymore. I've already lived through it. And let me tell you something, silence is the highest price you'll ever pay. And we've all paid it. Her words were met with a heavy stillness. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out a transcript. This is the phone call, she said. The one where Tyler Perry admitted what he did to me was wrong. Audible gasps filled the courtroom. Monique had long claimed that Perry privately apologized after the precious drama, but now she had physical proof. I recorded the conversation, she explained. He knew. I told him. He said he was okay with it. She handed the printed papers to the bailiff, who gave them to the judge. The judge glanced over the top few lines and gave a silent nod for the prosecution to proceed. In the transcript, Perry reportedly says, I know I did you wrong. You weren't being difficult, you just didn't want to work for free. I should have said that publicly. Then the tone shifts. Perry allegedly says, but I can't go public. Puff's name is tied up in too much right now. The prosecutors jumped on that line, using it to argue that even those with the cleanest reputations in Hollywood were complicit in keeping Diddy's secrets buried. Monique added, he told me if Puff falls, a whole lot of people fall with him, people who bankroll the industry, people who cut the checks. Her statement aligned with earlier testimonies from former bodyguard Gene Deal and actor Christian Keys, both of whom hinted that Diddy's influence wasn't just personal, it was systemic. Monique's voice trembled but stayed strong. He could have cleared my name. He didn't, because he was guarding something bigger than me. Bigger and darker than anyone wants to admit. The judge ruled the transcript admissible. A serious victory for the prosecution. Diddy's lawyers looked rattled. What was once just a phone call had now become federal evidence. And then, Monique dropped another name that, a name that hadn't come up during the trial, until now suddenly cut through the courtroom like ice. Oprah Winfrey. Monique didn't toss her into the mix lightly. Back in 2010, she said, I told Oprah something deeply personal, that I'd been abused by my brother as a child. She promised she'd never use that against me, but she did. She brought him on her show. Right after I refused to do Press for Precious, the entire courtroom tensed. It wasn't just a gut punch, it shifted the emotional weight of the trial. But Monique wasn't finished. She betrayed me, she said, steady and deliberate. And when I asked why, she said it was just business. But I knew better. They were trying to silence me. Then she connected the dots. Oprah, Perry, and Diddy linked not by chance, but by design. They used the same people, she said. Same crisis teams. Same NDA lawyers. Same handlers. I know because one of them slipped forwarded me an email by accident. My name, Puff's name, and Tyler's name were all in the subject line. It was about controlling optics. She handed the court a redacted copy. The judge agreed to review it in chambers, but the message was already loud and clear. This wasn't random. This was a system. People were gagged, paid, sacrificed, and Monique, now speaking under oath, gave it a name. It's a machine, she said, a silence machine, built to erase anyone who asks questions. The jury stared as she calmly closed her binder. She didn't cry. She didn't falter. She didn't need to because for the first time, this wasn't just a warning. It was testimony. When court resumed after a short recess, Monique did something no one expected. She paused, exhaled, and said clearly, "Now let's talk about the list." Everything stopped again. The prosecution leaned in. "There's a list in Hollywood," she said. "Not on paper, but everyone knows it. The names you don't challenge, the people you don't cross." Puff was on it. So was Tyler. And Oprah, she said, helped write the rules. This list wasn't just metaphor, it was real in its consequences. "The second you called out one of these untouchables," Monique explained, "you were painted as a problem, a liability. I crossed the line in 2010, she added, and I've been clawing my way back ever since." She didn't accuse for effect, she provided perspective. "Isn't it odd?" she asked. "How many actors worked with Diddy, Tyler, and Oprah, and then vanished?" She listed performers who'd had one hit, one big moment, and were never heard from again. "Some didn't play along," she said. "Some said no. And some," her voice dropped, "some saw things they weren't supposed to see." The court gave her permission to read a short, anonymized statement from a former actor. Redacted for safety, it described a private retreat led by a powerful male director, where phones were confiscated, NDA letters signed, and strange rituals reportedly took place. Monique didn't say it was Tyler Perry, but she didn't have to spell it out. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Monique let the silence do its work. The judge reminded the courtroom that these were allegations, not confirmed facts. But Monique's testimony carried the weight of lived experience. Her message was blunt. This wasn't an industry protecting creativity, it was an industry protecting secrets. And the truth, she said, it costs everything. Your work, your name, your peace, and after they take it all, you're left explaining to strangers why your phone never rings. When asked outright if she believed Diddy had a hand in the destruction of her career, Monique didn't flinch. "Yes," she said. "Not in the beginning, but eventually, yes." She explained it wasn't until years later that the full picture came into focus. After her fallout with the Precious campaign, as the blackballing quietly began, she received a call from a junior executive who had worked at Revolt TV, Diddy's network. "He told me," and I quote, she said, "you rub the wrong people. It's not just Tyler and Oprah. Puff don't like noise either." That was the moment the courtroom leaned forward. Monique testified that the executive hinted at something bigger. Perry's team had been in talks with Diddy about future collaborations. The deal was simple, she said. They wanted Puff's reach. I was in the way, she later learned. Through industry contacts that closed-door meetings between Perry and Diddy included conversations about her not as talent, but as a liability. The prosecution followed that with the first bombshell piece of digital evidence, internal emails between a public relations firm contracted by both Revolt and Tyler Perry Studios. The emails discussed how to shape public perception around both Monique and Cassie Ventura. For the first time, the jury saw a tangible link, a PR machine actively managing both women's reputations. In tandem, that revelation shifted the room. Monique continued, saying she believed the difficult label that haunted her career was no accident. "They use that word like a virus," she said. "It spreads. One casting director hears it, then another, and before you know it, your name comes with a built-in excuse to say no." Then she said something few in Hollywood would ever say aloud, especially under oath. "I wasn't blackballed," she said. "I was whiteballed by black people, people who looked like me, people who cared more about keeping their seat at the table than doing what was right." Her voice didn't shake. It was clear, resolute. "I didn't want to be here," she admitted, "but I had to. Because what they did to me, what they did to Cassie, what they're doing to young people right now, it won't stop. Unless someone says it louder than they do." She said the prosecution reached out to her 2 months ago. "At first, I said no," she recalled. "I wasn't going to reopen that pain, bring my family into it again. But then she saw the Prince video, saw Diddy yelling in court, saw Cassie collapse under cross. That's when I broke," she said. Her decision to testify, she explained, came after what she called a spiritual moment. "I heard my grandmother's voice," she said. "Baby, don't let them write your story without you in the room." And that's when she knew she had to take the stand. The final minutes of her testimony were haunting. The prosecution asked, "In your opinion, Ms. Jackson, what's the root of all this silence?" The prosecution asked. Monique didn't hesitate. "Fear," she said. "Everyone in this business is afraid. Afraid to lose a job, a deal, their name. Afraid to tell the truth because people, like Puff, like Tyler, and yes, like Oprah, have made the truth too expensive." Then she turned toward Diddy. Her voice softened, but her words were sharp. You thought no one would speak, that you built something too big to fall. But now you're surrounded by silence and I hope, finally, you can hear us. As she stepped down from the witness stand, court reporters noted that Diddy's hands were trembling. His attorney leaned in, whispering frantically. The gallery didn't erupt with sound, it pulsed with something deeper. It was clear, something had shifted. The woman many had written off a decade ago had just reshaped the entire trial. With a single voice, the courtroom had been bracing for shocks all week. But no one expected what happened next. As Monique turned toward the defense table, her eyes locked onto them, and in a calm, deliberate voice, she said a name that hadn't been mentioned once in official testimony: Tyler Perry. No theatrics, no yelling, just a clean, quiet shot across the bow. You want to talk about power, she said. Ask Mr. Perry why I was punished for saying no, why I was blackballed for refusing to work for free. Then look who was at his side at every industry event. A wave of audible reaction swept the room. Perry wasn't on trial. His name wasn't listed in any of the formal charges, but Monique's implication had nothing to do with law. It was about influence, protection, and complicity. He didn't help me, she said, but he made sure no one else could either. Ask the producers, the agents, ask Lee Daniels. I have the call logs. She held up a manila folder and submitted, unopened, but real. The defense immediately objected, but the jury had already heard it. She wasn't naming names to make headlines, she was drawing a map. And at the center of it wasn't just Diddy. I know who went to those parties, she said. I saw the NDA letters. I watched people sign them. I was told not to talk. And when I did, everything stopped. I was told, be grateful. You're lucky we let you in the room. The courtroom was stunned. But then she dropped the final blow. I have audio, she said, her voice even. A phone call. Tyler admitting he was wrong. Admitting he should have stood up for me. But he wouldn't make it public, he said it would ruin everything. She stared forward, not at Diddy, not at the jury, just straight ahead. I'm done protecting men who never protected me. That one sentence echoed louder than any testimony given so far. In that moment, the case was no longer just about Diddy. It was about the infrastructure around him, the system that let him thrive. And for the first time in the trial, the jury didn't just see a defendant. They saw an ecosystem, a fortress built by silence, maintained by fear, and exposed finally by a woman who refused to stay quiet.